A lovely guest asked the tour guide, why is there so many homeless people on Aruba? I was like, what? Why are there so many tents around? Well, that has to do with the tradition of Campamento. This is your Snide tour guide, Beach Llama. Follow the magic stick. You see, Aruba is predominantly Catholic for about 85% of the population, with varying degrees of piety. And as such, we do take part in certain celebrations and traditions. Yes, we celebrate the Christmases and carnivals, and yes, carnival is also a Christian tradition to an extent, that is, because our carnival is tied to Ash Wednesday, just as Fat Tuesday or Mardi Gras is. We wave goodbye to meat and vices in one big hurrah, celebrating all things meat and vices, thus welcoming Lent, a serene period of self-reflection and guilt trip spanning 40 days that culminates with a long weekend holiday from Good Friday to Easter Monday, where camping is the norm, especially on the many public beaches. Obviously, there's some legal/permit yada yada involved that I'm not gonna bother you with, but for the most part, it is a tradition to go camping on Easter weekend. Where this tradition start of Campamento?
No idea. I don't know. No idea.
Kawong tagara pa have fun. I say do bom pregunta ano swe chiquito no salanta ta campa y
the tour guide is a curious creature, and as such delved into a fact-finding endeavor to unravel the mysteries and origins of this local tradition. Searching high and low, everywhere and nowhere, he discovered that there are many factors that led to the development of the tradition we know today. We will share what we found out, don't worry, but we graciously ask you to follow and subscribe our social media platforms, djispahari.com and Djis Pahari YouTube for more content. Don't worry, links are in the description below. And now, without further ado, follow the magic stick. Springtime of you. In the olden times, the local youths would venture out camping on Easter weekend, specifically from Saturday to Easter Sunday. What would inspire them to do so, and why specifically on Saturday? Well, the Aruba of yesteryear was very pious and superstitious. We kinda still are, but not really. And it was absolutely frowned upon to have any kind of merriment, relaxation, or God forbid celebration on Good Friday. One would dare not go to the beach, or worse yet, be in the water after 3 p.m. on that day, lest they wanted to be turned into a fish. For this reason, Saturday was the preferred day to start one's camping adventure. In addition to that, the youth-oriented fraternity of scouting might have played a role in spreading camp fever. I meant to say camp fervor that seeped into the subculture of the populace, developing into what we see today. Or maybe, just maybe, it might just have to do with the teens just being teens in springtime. Do you have any idea what's going on with all these tents around here?
Yeah, I heard about it. It's during Easter. All locals come to the beach with their families and build their tents.
Black Monday. Another theory from the camping tradition stems from the Refinery era. 100 years ago, in the year 1924, what started as an oil depot to remedy the nuisance of tankers running adrift in the shallow waters of the Lake of Maracaibo Inlet blossomed into the largest oil refinery in the world. The largest heavy crude refinery on Earth at that time was built on Aruba in San Nicolas, an area to the southeast of the island. By the way, we will go much deeper into the refinery and the industrial era in a future episode of the Snide Tour Guide. With the lack of workers and language barriers between the locals and English-speaking Americans and Europeans at that time being a pressing issue, job vacancies attracted many men from the English-speaking Caribbean islands, popularly known as the West West Indies. These men, predominantly black, would immigrate to the island to work in the refinery. Their living quarters would vary depending on the position they held in the refinery. As the old-timer would say, if you're a worker, you live in the village. If you're a foreman, you live in the heights. And if you're white, you live in the colony. The colony, as it was called, was a gated community where all the American and European directors and managers of the refinery lived with all the amenities and luxuries, and to an extent, laws and mandates that they enjoyed back home. And if it was not obvious enough, it was strictly off limits to Rubiano Criollo and Rubiano Novo alike. With access to the most popular beaches in San Nicolas cut off from the rest of the community, the West Indians were left with no choice but to venture pabo. And it was quite normal to gather and celebrate Easter Monday at the various beaches to the southwestern side of the island, thus spawning the term Black Monday for obvious reasons.
Kiko Kemembushiri.
Kiko é por outra renda por conta dessa que vem puxiri.
Kiko Kemembushiri.
Pascua Maracucho.
Viva Venezuela, mi patria querida.
Aruba is a stone's throw away from South America. The closest point from Aruba to South America is Punto Fijo, Venezuela, which is about 14 to 18 miles to the south of us. There's always been traffic between Aruba and the mainland dating back to the prehistoric era. But we aren't gonna go back that far into time, ladies and gents. We're heading back to the 1980s when Venezuela was still one of the richest Latin American countries, and a lot of the prominent Venezolanos, many of them from the oil industry, would spend their Semana Santa or Holy Week on the island's beaches. Mostly Eagle Beach, but also Baby and Rogers Beach after the closing of Lago Refinery and the opening of the colony. The era between the 1980s and the 1990s is when the tradition kicked into high gear and transitioned into the version of Campamento we know today. The rest is history. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed today's tour, but before I leave, I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to Biblioteca Nacional Arubiana Caribiana Digital Collection, Graciela Ned, Misa San Francisco in Oranjestad, Ramon Tot Danderey, and Rica de la Mare for making this episode of Sly and Snide Tour Guide possible. Have a good one, guys, and don't forget, once a guest, always a friend. This is your Sly and Snide Tour Guide, Beach Llama.